Hi everyone, my name is Steph, this is the Novelty Corner, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to my October reading wrap-up. It was a bit of a wild ride in October in terms of books. At one point I was worried it was going to be my lowest reading month. It wasn't quite. In fact, it's not even really, but for a while it was touch and go there. Behind me are some of the physical books that I read, but I'm not going to be talking about all of them in this video. In fact, I don't think I'm talking about any of those physical books in this video because I talk about them in other videos, but we'll get to that in a moment. This is my reading wrap up for October, in which I read 47 books, including some genres that I don't normally reach for, like dark romance and horror books, because that's not really my thing. But you know, it's October, so it's perfectly reasonable that I would try some of those genres in this particular month. And I assure you, I am filming this on the 1st of November. So I have finished reading. And the reason that I do not film my wrap-ups, I've talked about this before, the reason I do not film my wrap-ups before the end of the month is because you never know what you're going to read before the end of the month. And I had a 5-star read at the end of this month. Unfortunately, I'm not talking about it in this video either because that will come in another video as well. But I had a 5-star read and it was delightful. Like, that's how you want to end your month, because then you just sail into the new month, which is kind of like your reset, but you feel good because you've had a 5-star read. So jumping into the stats, I read 47 books, 11,259 pages. I had 3 rereads this month, 2 of which were picture books. So this month, in terms of rereads, very, very small, which is very unusual for me. And I had 16 Fs, which doesn't sound right to me, but apparently is accurate. But I mean, I have to admit, this month I use a couple of digital apps and things to track various lists and things, as well as my spreadsheet. And for some reason, this month, I had to reset a couple of the apps that I was using and I lost a bunch of data in the middle of the month. So nothing to do with the actual physical stats of the books, but in terms of my note taking for some of the challenges and things like that. So I've had to rebuild that and I'm hoping that I'm accurate. I think I am, but there may be a 1 or 2 book discrepancy somewhere, and I think the DNFs took a hit. I'll work that out. That's a future Steph problem to sort out. As always, I'm not going to be talking about all 47 books that I read because this video would be very, very long, and next year I have plans for changing up how I do monthly wrap-ups anyway, again, because I need to simplify this process a lot. I'm going to show you a picture of all of the books that I read this month, so that should be on the screen now, followed by the kids' titles that I read, my rereads, the books that I read for projects, so these either have featured in videos or will be coming out in videos in the very near future, leaving us with a very small stack of books to talk about in this video, for which I am deeply appreciative of this month. Alrighty, so let's start with Elanie and the Empath by Jess K. Hardy. This is part of her space cruise romance sci-fi series, which the first book I read earlier in the year. I've mentally blanked on what the title is. I'll pop the book cover on the screen. So this is a sci-fi romance. We are following a bionic who is a half human, half AI individual who works aboard a big space cruiser. It's a very famous luxury liner, which is known not only for being a luxury liner, but also for having a level that is all about the various escapades of people of the galaxy. And her name is Elanie. And at the very start of the book, we find out that she has had a recent upgrade and has had an upgrade to her emotional programming, which basically means she's going through puberty and she is not having it. Like she is not happy about it. And she ends up going to the ship's doctor, Sam, and he's trying to help talk her through this puberty. And it is a very strange situation for him because he's having to explain it, and she's just very blunt in the way she asks her questions, etc. I have to admit, I was a little bit hesitant initially with this book because it is a relationship between Sam and Elanie, and at the start of the book, he is her doctor. However, the relationship doesn't kick in until well after sort of that relationship has stopped. Sort of what has been happening in the background is we find out that bionics have been going missing. Some of them have just completely disappeared off of ships or from the places where they work, to others who are ending up walking out of space airlocks on ships and dying. As we learn this, we also learn that, you know, basically they're treated like slave labor. They don't get days off. They don't get holidays. It's just expected that they will work because they're a commodity. They're something that people and corporations have paid for to have as part of their workforce. Elanie begins to hear this voice in her head, and this voice is calling her to go somewhere. And eventually that overrides her system and she ends up getting into this escape pod, and Sam happens to see her and he ends up getting in with her. She's non-responsive at this point, but then wakes up just as the pod launches and has to then protect Sam because they are hurtling very, very quickly through space to a location that neither of them really know where they're going. And essentially what they find when they crash land on this planet is, one, it's a very inhospitable place. Both of them are struggling to survive in this environment. And then they also find that it is an outpost for a utopia for bionics. However, there is a little bit of an unnerving, sinister-ish kind of thing going on in here. So it's a bit cultish in that way. While this was a fun time, I don't think it really did enough with the topics that it was bringing up. It was obviously addressing this idea of slavery and non-fully human beings as being property and being worth controlling. And then the story kind of gets flipped on this planet. And I just don't think enough was done with that plot line. Like the romance plot was fine. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being back with the characters on the space cruise liner. That was pretty fun. But yeah, I definitely didn't enjoy this one as much as the first book in the series, but it wasn't terrible either. So I will take that as a win. And then I picked The Red by Tiffany Reisz back up. So this was a book that I tried the first chapter of recently, and it's been a book I've been meaning to read for ages. I've had it sitting on my Kindle for ages. I enjoy Tiffany Reisz. She writes some very, very steamy books. This one is an erotic fantasy, so it's not a romance. The HEA is not really a thing. And the best way I can describe this book is it is a fever dream. Like, it is so wild. And like, I've read wild books in the past. This is just wild in terms of the fact that it's set in the world of art. Mona, our main character, runs her mother's art gallery after the passing of her mother, but the gallery is about to fail and she desperately is trying to keep it open. And she finds a strange man after closing time in her gallery. He tells her that he will help her save her mother's gallery. And he starts by revealing that one of the paintings in her collection is not what it seems, and is actually quite a famous painting. And so after that happens, the gallery gets some notoriety and this guy comes back. His name is Malcolm. And he says that in exchange for meeting with Mona once every 1 or 2 months for sex, he will gift her artwork that will help raise the profile of her gallery. The only catch is that in those sexual encounters, he can do whatever he likes and she just has to go along with it. And she does. And the first time it's great and it's a little bit odd at times, but she's just going with it. I mean, he's a mysterious guy. And then it starts getting really weird because all of their encounters are based around famous artworks from history. So you get a bit of an art lesson in here, which was really cool because I was sitting there reading and then I was looking up the paintings and things like that because they were paintings that I hadn't heard of or didn't really know much about. But it's very much a fantasy in that you kind of can't tell what is real and what is not, and neither can Mona. It feels very much like a hallucination. She feels like she's being drugged at points. There is a lot of dubious consent or CNC, and you have scenes that involve nymphs and satyrs and minotaurs, and she cannot tell what is real. And it is, yeah, very wild. Great reading for October. Like, it was the perfect book to read in October, and I really enjoyed it. But it's kind of difficult to explain without giving away what is going on. But I do want to be clear that it is not a romance at all. But it is a wild ride, and I do recommend it. I lied. One of these books from the stacks is in this list, and that is Ghosted by Amy Hutton. This is so cute. So Amy Hutton is an Australian author, and this book was delightful. It is the story of Holly and Callum. Holly and Callum have known each other for a little while. They were on their way from friends to possibly being something more when something happened, and basically now Holly just cannot stand Callum. Holly is a ghost whisperer. She sees ghosts all around her and she is able to send them on their way. And Callum is a very successful ghost haunting podcast host. He is given the job of a lifetime to investigate and do a series on a very haunted house in East Mill. And he invites Holly along. She's reluctant at first, but it's also this kind of lure of this tale of this house. And so the two of them end up there having to work together, trying to discover what is going on with this haunted house, which keeps trying to draw them in, and strange things are happening, like stranger than usual. And what this turns out to be is a bit of a multi-generational ghost story with hauntings and creepy sacrifices going on. Like, it was a lot darker than I thought it was going to be. It's not super dark, but it went places that I wasn't expecting it to go. And I had the best time reading it. Like, it was fabulous. And I just love that this book got beautiful treatment. Like, this is just the regular book. You don't pay extra for this as a special edition. This is just what was released. And I love that it's written by an Australian. It's not set in Australia, but by an Australian author. So always yay for the win. All right, I then went back to another book that I started in a try chapter video. So yay me, look at this, 2 books in a month that I went back to from a try chapter video. That's basically unheard of. And that is Scary in Love by Holly June Smith. I did try the chapter of this, and then a couple of my friends said that they had read it and they really enjoyed it, so that kind of bumped it back up on the list. And also, it's not a super long book. It is 173 pages long. This is a Halloween romance, so it's set around Halloween. It is also based around a haunted house. You have Mason, who is a scare actor and has inherited this family home, and he's turned it into a haunted house. Jenna is our point of view character. She's on a date with a guy. She's taking him to the haunted house. She's excited. She loves all of this stuff. She's been that kid who's always been deeply invested in creepy stuff as a kid, freaking out her parents, but she loves a haunted house. And she knows straight away that her date is not great with haunted houses, and in fact, she ends up injured in the very first room of this haunted house when he freaks out and leaves. And that's how she meets Mason. He comes to help her and to check over her injuries and all of that. And so they get to talking and they get to know one another a little bit. And he says, no, I want you to come back. We'll give you some free tickets. You can come back at another point. Because he's desperately trying to make this work because he needs it to be financially viable. She comes back. She has a great time. This could not be me. I could not do a haunted house. I definitely couldn't do a haunted house like this. Mason and Jenna become closer. They see each other outside of the haunted house. They get to know one another. And he eventually proposes to her a personalized haunted house night after everyone leaves on October 31st. He also reveals that he's a pleasure dom. So my fans of Hollow's Grove by Lee Jacko, this book is for you. Like, this is comparable in terms of the same kind of beats that novella hit. And so he plans out this elaborate haunted house experience for her based on her pleasure and just chases her through the house, scares the bejesus out of her, which is fully consensual. It is so hot and it is just a wild ride. Like, the last part of this book where all of this is happening is just wild. Highly recommend. It was a great time. Another novella was my Begrudging Scent Matches by Naomi Phillips, which is an Omegaverse novella. This one doesn't feature shifters. It's just a contemporary story with Omegaverse. And let's face it, I don't read a lot of Omegaverse, so I know the mechanics of it. I know how the structure works. I just don't typically pick it up. It is an MMF, Omegaverse. So Caleb and Grant are already an established couple, and we are in the perspective of Alice for the entire book. Alice works at a marketing company. The book opens with her welcoming Caleb and Grant to the team because they're starting as remote workers who will eventually be moving into the office at some point. She is very bubbly, over the top. She's a people pleaser. She does a lot of work that probably should be handed off to other people because she is scarily effective at her job, and her superior just keeps giving her more and more things to do, so he doesn't have to do them. Does that sound relatable to anyone? Anyway, Caleb is kind of the step above her boss. And his emails are always very succinct and to the point where she feels like he just doesn't like her because he's just so to the point. She's also hiding that she's an Omega and she's on scent blockers and things like that. She's 26. She's never gone into her first heat. She's currently going into her first heat and she's not happy about it. She doesn't want to become the good, perfect little Omega for a pack and be sort of the stay-at-home person. She wants to have her career. And so when Caleb and Grant turn up and she recognizes that they're alphas and she's going into her first heat, she is very, very unimpressed by the whole thing. Even more so when she finds out that both of them are her scent matches, which just basically means fated mates. Long story short, she goes into her first heat. They're there to help her through it. And then she has to try and figure out whether or not she wants to make a go of it. They desperately would like her to be in their pack. She is worried that they're thinking that they're going to have her barefoot and pregnant within months. And they're like, well, no, that's not actually what we want. But she's very much in that mindset because all of her life, that's what she's seen happen around her. And on top of all of that, work is a stressor because her boss is just being a douche. So it's this story about how, you know, she comes together with Caleb and Grant and how they sort of work out a relationship that allows them to all get what they want. It's short, so there's probably a little bit more world building and a few things that probably could have been developed in more depth. However, you know what, for what it was great. I enjoyed it. I've got a few other Omegaverse books on my radar, so stay tuned. You might see some more in a few months. Do not expect me to go down a full rabbit hole though. I probably won't. And then the last book on my list is Now You See Him by Nina Saxena, which is Nisha Sharma's adult pen name. This is a horror romance. You have Tina, who is engaged to her fiance, and their relationship is very much on the rocks. She ends up buying this renovated old house in the countryside, and basically she and her fiance have decided they're going to give each other 6 months to see if they can salvage their relationship or whether they call it quits. He really doesn't want to move into this house, and that should have been her first red flag. When they move in, strange things begin happening. The lights flicker, the basement door keeps opening, and one night when her fiance is out of town, she ends up in the basement, and she and a ghost end up having sex, is the best way to describe it. It would be dubious consent at best, but she's certainly not unhappy with the result. She also meets the owner of the house, who is the twin brother of a guy who died in the house. I don't really want to say much more about this except to know it is a horror romance. It is quite dark. I won't say that I loved this book. It's probably just not the genre for me in terms of what was being done. There's a lot of things going on in here. If you like a horror romance, this is probably one to try, but it was of the ones in this sort of list that I've been reviewing today, was probably the biggest miss for me out of the last 6 books. Alrighty, so the rest of the books that I haven't talked about will feature in videos coming soon. So that just leaves a bingo board from hell update. We're doing pretty well. So for the read 100% of my pre-2025 TBR, we're still sitting at 96%. I did take a couple of books off my collection. I think I talked about it last month. I have 2 books left to leave. The plan is to read them this month. I've read 78 audiobooks, so I have a new star, which is very exciting for me. I'm very happy about that. I have completed 13 try a chapter videos so far, which is a star. And it also gives me my first bingo down and diagonally across the board, which is amazing. I DNF'd one of the series. I ended up DNFing Fire and Water by Alexis Hall and just DNFing the Kate Kane series. I just could not get into that book. Even though I've previously quite enjoyed the style and the voice, it just wasn't working for me. And while I could probably say that I could come back to it, I haven't deleted the book or anything. It's still sitting on my device. I'm calling it here. So that's another series DNF'd / completed, which leaves 4 to go. And if you watched my TBR video, you got a little bit of an overview of the books that are left. Then for my reading 80% of my set TBR for the month, I think I did it. This is one of the stats that I lost. And I couldn't be bothered putting it back together. I'm pretty sure I completed it, so I'm counting it. I have currently read 72 middle grade or young adult titles. I have read 82.6% of my 2025 physical TBR, which is a percentage drop from the 88% that I had last month. However, I did go to Rare, I did acquire some new books, and I'm still above my 75% goal. So I'm counting that as a huge, huge win. I've read 19 nonfiction books. I have planned the last nonfiction book that I'm planning to read for this challenge, although I'm hoping I get to a couple more nonfiction books before the end of the month. And my 52 book club challenge is complete, so yay. And that is the update for October. So thanks for sticking around if you got this far into the video, because this is a longer one. In the comments, I'd love to know, have you read any of these books? Are you planning on picking them up? Or are there any books from all the books that I read this month that you are looking forward to hearing me talk about? Feel free to let me know down below. If you just want to let me know that you're here but you don't want to leave a comment, feel free to leave a flower emoji, because we are well and truly entering spring here in Australia, which is amazing. I hope that wherever you're in the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye everyone.